Welcome to Her Handmade Hustle Unplugged, a podcast for all women with a creative business who want to learn more about how to make money doing something they love. I'm Joanne Pearce, a female entrepreneur myself, 15 years experience running my own handmade stationery business, Vintage Twee. I'm an established seller on two of the biggest handmade marketplaces, so I've got a whole load of advice to share about how to start and run your own successful creative business. I'm also a wife and a mother, so I get the struggles of trying to do it all while you're raising a family. It's hard. Alongside running Vintage Twee, I'm also a mentor for other women like me who desperately want to work for themselves but just need that bit of support to get going and get their business dream off the ground. I'm a friendly northerner, I'm open and honest with a huge heart and a real fighting spirit, and I'm living proof that you can achieve anything that you set your mind to, even in the face of adversity. This podcast celebrates the selflessness, strength, and resilience of women in business. So if you're ready to ditch the 9 to 5 and learn how to start your own successful creative business, you're in the right place. Hello and welcome to the podcast. I'm hoping that you will find this episode okay because I've just switched over podcasting hosting platforms. So fingers crossed that you got notified when this episode got uploaded and went live. So how are you all feeling? The vibe that I've been getting the last couple of weeks from people in my community of women is a little down in the dumps. Now, it's probably a case of the January blues. We all get it. I mean, it's been a bloody month, hasn't it? Let's be honest. Most of us are broke, we're knackered, we're wondering why we're feeling like we'd rather be doing anything else other than these goals that we've set ourselves so optimistically at the beginning of the new year. I am exactly the same, don't worry about it. But did you actually know that there's a day called Quitters Day? And it's been scientifically worked out as the most likely day that a person is going to quit their goal and give up on whatever it is that they said they were going to do. Now, this is 100% true, and I heard it on the Mel Robbins podcast, who I listen to. She's fabulous. If you haven't listened to her, go and check her out. But the Quitters Day, so it's day 19, right, from starting any new goal that you're trying to achieve or a habit that you want to break. Day 19. It's the day you are most likely to give up. Unless, of course, you are my husband Dave, who quit dry January on day 2. Obviously, he's a law to himself. But yes, the 19th day from when you set out to change your behaviour for the better is D-Day. Destruction, disappointment, despair. Like, it's not good, is it? And I think a lot of us might be approaching our day 19 at the moment, which is why you might be feeling a little bit shit about your goals. Maybe you haven't lost any of the Christmas podge that you've put on. I've got my hand up right here. Maybe the lack of sales in January for your business has discouraged you a little bit from working on it. And you're broke and you're wondering if it's ever going to happen for you. Well, unfortunately, this is part of being self-employed. The peaks are great, but the troughs are truly shit. And add into the mix that we're all bloody exhausted from Christmas and the whole chaos of the season. You know, whether you've got a business or not, it's just a mad, stressful time of the year for anyone that's not under the age of 10, let's be honest. So you're probably feeling pretty burnt out, unmotivated, and just like you can't be arsed sticking to your diet or starting your newsletter or going for a run every lunchtime. I get it. I've been feeling exactly the same. Like I'm absolutely no different, I promise you. I haven't gone for my daily lunchtime power walk since I said I was going to on the 6th of January because I'm tired. I haven't launched my new products on Etsy or not on the high street yet, like I said I was going to, because I'm tired. And I also haven't batch cooked all of my hairy biker recipes for the week ahead, or finished putting Eden's Christmas presents away even, because I'm tired. January, actually, it's a really difficult time to stick to goals, I think. You know, we're all suffering from burnout from the previous season. I think we need to see January differently, and not as a month to start new things, all energised and optimistic. But I think instead, it should be a month to recover, to give our bodies and our minds a rest, to let our nervous systems reset, let our cortisol levels return to baseline and to recharge. Because what happens, right? We only end up disappointing ourselves and then we feel bad about it. So, what if we actually took that pressure off in January to allow ourselves to recover and start our goals and our new habits in February instead? Like, I think February should be the new January. All right. I'm going to coin that term. But people think running a business means freedom. And it does to some degree, or we wouldn't be doing it, would we? Let's be honest. But what no one tells you is about the constant race to stay ahead. I'm not talking about staying ahead of your competitors, which is also a massive pressure, I know. But I'm talking about actually trying to take on the force of time itself and being in a constant state of forward planning. Planning for Christmas in July, like panicking about Valentine's Day in December, or burning out in spring before it's even bloody sprung. Like, it's so stressful. And I felt it was important today to acknowledge this stress and the frustration and the emotional toll that forward planning takes on us as entrepreneurs. Because no one really does. They're too busy advertising the Halloween range in May. But as the consumer, I don't want to be thinking about Halloween or what the hell my daughter's going to go as until at least the 1st of October. That's just me. As the customer, it's not important to me until it is upon me. But as the retailer or the small business owner or the creator, we kind of have to. I mean, all you need to do is go into B&M or Tesco or wherever. They've got all the sodding Easter eggs in already. Like, good God, I haven't even lost the weight from the amount of chocolate I ate at Christmas, let alone thinking about the next calorific occasion that's on the horizon. But we're forced into this panic mode, aren't we? This seasonality in business. It forces us to live months ahead and it makes us feel totally disconnected from the present. And I think it's partly responsible for how you might be feeling right now, or maybe you felt in the past. But it's a huge problem. Like, we can't go on living like this, feeling in this constant state of anxiety and stress. And we need to address this problem of living in the future, especially as a small business owner, so we can enjoy the process of preparing for these inevitable peak trading seasons rather than just dread them, because I know sometimes I do dread them and it makes me sad. I don't want to feel like that. I want to look forward to them. So let's talk today about seasonal burnout because it's a real thing. And it's not just related to the seasons, although I truly believe that Christmas burnout is a real condition and it should be eligible for diagnosis. I really do. I suffer from it every year. But burnout is linked to any kind of time in your life when you don't get the chance to rest or recharge. Now, our nervous systems crave balance. And we are putting them under constant pressure all the time when we're constantly in forward thinking mode. Now, I like a bit of science. I like to talk about the reasons why we feel the way we feel. So let's add some neuroscience to this, right? As I just find it helps us understand it more. So, what is burnout first and foremost? Well, it's the state of emotional, physical, and mental exhaustion, which is caused by prolonged stress. Now, forward planning only adds fuel to the fire because it creates a sense of endless work without mental breaks. So, forward planning becomes anticipatory stress, which is basically stress that occurs when we're always worrying about future events. Now, that could be getting your Valentine's product range out there in time, or it could be everyday stuff like trying to plan the weekend activities for the kids or schedule your food shop a fortnight in advance to supposedly reduce the stress of doing it last minute. But actually, when we're stuck in this constant mode of forward planning and we're experiencing these levels of anticipatory stress, our brains are constantly releasing cortisol, which is the stress hormone, even though the event hasn't even happened yet. Now, there was a study by a neuroscientist called Dr. Robert Sapolsky, and he looked at stress in humans and in animals. And he wrote a book called Why Zebras Don't Get Ulcers. And it's all about how chronic stress, including this anticipatory stress that we've been talking about here, harms our physical and our mental health. So Sapolsky's research highlighted how the human brain's ability to try and always account for the future leads to this chronic stress compared to animals who are living more in the present. I mean, okay, it's all right saying that, isn't it? I guess, because a zebra doesn't have to run a business on 6 hours a day, in between the school run, with 6 hours sleep if he's lucky. And he also doesn't have to make sure there's food in the house and everybody gets out the door in time for school. And he doesn't have to change the bed at 2 a.m. because someone's pissed it. Like it's hardly a comparable lifestyle, is it? But it's interesting because it shows that this forward planning is triggering this anticipatory stress, which is keeping our bodies in a low grade fight or flight state, which is obviously going to be exhausting over time. And when we look at it from a business owner's point of view and the nature of running a business, it is no wonder that we're knackered and we're burnt out because we're constantly anticipating peak trading periods and deadlines. So, yes, you may be feeling fatigued, you might have a lack of motivation, you're losing the joy in the events that you're planning for or you're supposed to be planning for. Like, it's not surprising because of this constant forward planning mode that we find ourselves in. Now, we're going to be looking today at some practical tips to cope with this. That's always forward planning. But for now, I just want to talk about the impact of all this, how it actually bleeds into your personal life. Because this side of entrepreneurship, it isn't talked about or not enough. And there are so many people out there feeling this pressure. Whether you're making £100 a month or £10 a month or £1,000 a month, like we're feeling this pressure all the time to plan ahead in order to be good business people. But actually, what we're doing is we're missing out on the now because we're always thinking about what's next. So, me and my friend, who's the baker that I always talk about, we always find ourselves talking about how fed up we are of a particular celebration before it's even taken place, right? And this is particularly true of Christmas time because obviously there's a long run up to it. We've got lots of things going on, personal and professional. And yeah, we just find ourselves going on about the fact that we're really fed up before it even gets here. So obviously I'm churning out these personalised replies from Santa that I do probably for maybe a good 2 to 3 months in advance, I would say. I don't stop. She's baking biscuits and cookie jars and all kinds of delicious festive treats that I usually inhale in about 5 seconds when she brings them to me because I'm the sampler. Honestly, she's a dangerous person to know, I'm telling you. But we are so involved in making everyone else's Christmas special that by the time we get to actually enjoy our own Christmas, we just can't muster up the energy to get as excited as we should be. We're actually a little bit sick of it. I mean, I usually have repetitive strain injury and I'm always ill. Like always. It's either on Christmas Day or it's just after between Christmas and New Year because I've worked so hard in the run up and I've exhausted myself in advance for this huge trading period for my stationery business. And I've got absolutely nothing left to give. I mean, how sad is that? Like, I've got a 5-year-old who is bursting at the seams with excitement for the big day. They've done all this stuff in school in the build up to Christmas Day. Like, they do this, don't they? Like, wind the kids up for like a good month in advance. They've got like Christmas jumper day. They've got Santa runs. They've got bloody take baby Jesus home in his crib day. Like, honestly, that was a real thing in my daughter's school. So they called it the travelling crib. And the kids all got a turn to bring baby Jesus home in his little cot to spend the night at their house. Now, luckily, baby Jesus didn't make it to our house because I think Eden was off that particular week, that it was her turn. And I'm thankful for it, honestly, because if he had, I'm not sure he would have made it back to school because Eden would have abducted him, I am sure. No doubt about it. She gets attached to things very easily. Particularly vulnerable baby dolls, wearing nothing but a loincloth. There's no way he was getting out of our house alive. But the point is, the schools, they shake these kids up for the whole month of December like a bottle of Coke. And then they send them home with the lid off and they just explode for like a whole 2 weeks from the run up to Christmas. And afterwards, the whole time they're off, they're just running around like crazy lunatics, hyped up with all the festivities. And I struggle to keep up with this insane amount of energy. And I feel really bad about it. I honestly do. I feel terrible. But all this cortisol that has been running through my veins for 2 months as I've tried to keep on top of my Christmas orders, keep my customers happy, it takes its time leaving our bodies. I think the levels of cortisol that I have are still there in January because my body is trying to return itself to this baseline cortisol level that it should have, which honestly, I think in me is naturally high anyway, to be fair. Um, but I do feel a bit cheated. Like I've lost a little piece of the magic of the season because I'm burnt out before it arrives. And I know that my friend feels this too. I remember her sending me a text a few weeks ago. It was just, I think we were like deep in the trenches of the Christmas madness. And she was literally like, "What a shit show. I hate Christmas." Like those are her words. And it has a massive effect on us. Our relationships, our family dynamics, our own personal mental health. It all suffers. I mean, I'm as snappy as hell, like for 2 solid months before Christmas. I can feel it inside me. And that's before I'm going to be thrust into the menopause when they whip my ovaries out. I mean, there's no hope for Dave and Eden. I've already pre warned them. But physically, I'm exhausted. I'm falling asleep most nights at 9 p.m. on the sofa, mid episode of Lost, which we're currently watching, right? I'm loving it. I'm about 20 years late to that party. If you've not seen it, get on it. So good. Well, I have headaches. I'm usually dehydrated because I'm not making enough time for drink breaks. I've got multiple burn marks from all the bloody wax seals that I'm stamping on these Santa letters. And sometimes I can feel my heart palpitating. And I get little panic attacks. I can't get everything done in time. And what if this goes wrong? And how can I prevent this from happening? I always overeat. Or I don't eat the correct stuff because I can't be asked cooking. Or I'm just reaching for a quick fix to keep me going through the day because I've got no time to cook. Like, this is not good for us. This prolonged exposure to stress, what is it doing to us inside? And that's not even mentioning the mental effects. Like I said, I've got no patience. I can be irritable. I feel depressed and anxious. And all because I'm worrying about getting my products out in the world at the right time. Not too early, not too late. Thinking about the next big trading time for my business and prepping for it 4 to 5 months in advance. It really takes its toll. And I think it's only made worse if you're a planner by nature, and I am. We can't help it. I think I might have mentioned this in a previous podcast episode before. I got dumped once because the guy I was dating at the time said that I was too organised. I mean, I think he was being slightly unreasonable, right? Because his idea of being too organised was me asking him on a Friday night what he fancied doing together on Saturday. Like, come on, seriously. Bit of a dick. Obvious commitment phobe as well. My husband now, he likes that I'm the planner of the family because he doesn't have to think about it then. He doesn't have to come up with what we're going to do each weekend with a restless 5-year-old. He's grateful that I take that responsibility off his hands. But when we're mentally exhausted from forward planning all the time, we tend to perform poorly cognitively as well. We make mistakes. We forget stuff. Just yesterday, actually, Dave was working from home, as he has been a lot lately, saying that through gritted teeth. It's lovely having him around, but, kind of missing my alone time a little bit in the day. But anyway, he was working from home, and he was having a particularly busy day. He had these non-stop calls coming in, planning meetings, like what was going on later on in the week. And I could see that he was visibly stressed. And it's not like him, but I could see that he was rushing around, but he wasn't focused. He just was feeling it. He was feeling the stress. So it so happened, right, that we did our usual trick of letting the toilet roll run down to a dangerously low level, assuming that one of us will just pick a pack up while we're out, right? Well, neither of us did. So it got to that point. It got to the point, as I'm sure you can imagine, or not, I know it's not the best image, where one of us got into trouble. Of course, it was me. Um, so Dave was about to nip out to grab a sandwich for his lunch. So I said to him, look, can you just do 2 things while you're out, right? One, can you pop my orders through the post box outside the co-op where he was going? And 2, can you get some toilet roll, desperately? You can see the problem here, can't you? Since I put post my orders as priority number 1, that's dedication for you. But anyway, so he went off to the co-op. 10 minutes later, he returned, and I was so thankful to see him. Thank God for that. And I heard him in the kitchen. He was rustling his crisps and opening his sandwich. So I shouted down the stairs, "Oh, Dave, can you just chuck the toilet roll up, please?" And he went quiet. So I asked him again, And then I just heard this muffled, "Oh shit, I forgot it." Well, that was that, right? It was baby wipes until my dad arrived a couple of hours later. And when I eventually went downstairs, my order was still sat by the front door waiting to go. So he bloody forgot that as well. Honestly, but the point is that it just shows the effect that stress and having a busy mind can have on our performance and our functioning, our cognitive functioning day to day. I mean, that was another level, right? But it's also pretty standard behaviour in our house. I won't lie. But like I mentioned before, we inevitably have to accept that to some degree, especially for business owners, we are going to have to deal with a certain amount of forward planning, especially if you're a product based business and you are relying on these peak trading times like Christmas or Easter. That is when you make your money. So you have to be on it and you have to plan for it. But at what point do we draw the line? At what point should we be saying, right, enough is enough? And actually, I'm not prepared to sacrifice my own enjoyment of this particular time of year or whatever, and I'm going to reclaim the now. Because by constantly living for the future, you're missing out on what's right in front of you right now. And honestly, yes, okay, you may feel more organised in the moment because you think you're reducing your workload by getting that shit done and planned and out of the way now. But no, it's an illusion. And I'll tell you why. Because all it's actually doing, being this ultra organised and planning everything 3 months in advance, is freeing up your time to fit more stuff in. So instead of saying, I've planned all my social media posts for the rest of the month, so now I'm going to take a back seat for a bit. Like, I'm going to go and have a brew. I've got an hour to, I don't know, go in the garden, do some planting, do something that makes you happy. But what do you actually do? Like, really? Like, truly be honest with yourself. Do you spend that time doing something relaxing and just for you? Do you go for that lunchtime walk? Or do a bit of yoga? Or even just sit down with a nice cup of coffee, maybe watching a sneaky episode of your favourite programme on Netflix before pick up and everyone comes home from work and school and it's carnage. I mean, you might. Like, hats off to you if you do, because I don't. You know what I do? What I say to myself? I go, oh, I'm feeling really organised, really relieved. I've got all that social media planning done. It's freed up at least an hour of my day. Like, it's brilliant. Oh, I know what I'm going to do instead. I think I'm going to start something totally new that I don't actually need to be doing right now, but I've got time, so I might as well. And then before you know it, you've created a load more work for yourself. I'm stressed, and then I end up feeling more panicky than I did before because I've just doubled my workload and my stress. So it's like I've freed up my time initially, but actually it's bitten me in the arse because me, being me, I'm not capable of sitting still and just doing nothing. I'm not. And I know that. I could be starting a newsletter or I'll find the time to, I don't know, make some bows for the cupcake sticks that I make. Anything. I'll do anything. As long as I'm not just sat there doing nothing. But I should be. I should be doing something for me because that's why I was forward planning to give myself some time. So now I don't try and rush through my to-do list and try and get a month ahead of myself. Because I think to-do lists are very much like a laundry basket, right? They are never empty. No matter how hard that you strive to get to the bottom of that bloody pile, someone always chucks something else in there and off you go again. On to the next cycle. You're fighting a losing battle, honestly. So don't let the to-do list control you because it takes away the enjoyment of the now. But everything always gets done in the end if it's important. It really does. We have to reclaim the now and build in moments in our day of presence. Right? Enjoy the current season, even during peak planning times. Now, you might be saying to yourself, okay, but I do this all on my own. How can I do that? Well, so do I. I run Vintage Tree all on my own. Her Handmade Hustle all on my own. 2 businesses, and I've never been so busy. And my mind is full all the time. And I don't like it. And I am doing something about that. And I'm going to tell you exactly what at the end of this episode. So keep listening. But how can we do this when we're a one-man band, effectively running the whole show? Because yes, we're doing everything and it's hard. You need some practical tips that are going to help you cope with always forward planning. All right, so let's look how you can do this. Yes, you're a small business owner, but you're not a slave to your business. It doesn't own you. You own it. And that's when you'll start to resent it, if you start to feel like it's owning you. So let me tell you, this is what I've learned to do. So the first thing, I started setting myself these intentional celebration breaks. Now it sounds a bit like cliche, whatever, but it works. What are they? So these are times that you set yourself where you step away from your work and you go and enjoy the season. Like go and immerse yourself in whatever time of year it is that you find yourself the busiest in. All right. So when I'm deep in the trenches at Christmas and it's all getting a bit much and I can feel my energy and my excitement just rapidly declining, I step away. And I usually go and take myself off to a garden centre and I browse the Christmas decorations, or I do a little bit of Christmas shopping, or I go and get a gingerbread latte, whatever, pay an extortionate amount for someone to put a bloody hot, tasty drink in my hand. That's how desperate I am. It doesn't have to be a lot. It doesn't have to be anything huge. But you do have to make sure it's something for you, that's about you and what you enjoy. You're doing enough for everyone else, right? When you're running your business and you're busy. So you need to choose something that really makes you happy. Otherwise, it is totally pointless. And you can do this anytime that you're feeling a bit pressured or overwhelmed from all the planning. Just stop. Go to your local coffee shop, and the only thing that you are allowed to plan on the way there is whether or not you can have marshmallows and whipped cream and whatever it is you order. Like, that's it. Enjoy the moment and don't look at your phone. No more planning. Look around. Wherever you are, look around. Observe. Like, we've lost the art of being comfortable in our own company, I think. And we always seem to need this security blanket of our phone. Well, people watch. Something that I really used to enjoy doing. It's not weird, as long as you don't stay for too long. I like to imagine people's stories, like why they are there. So like, I always concoct some scenarios in my head, what's their situation? So, for example, I think, oh, there's two people over there, they're meeting up for a secret date because they're having like a lunchtime affair. That kind of thing. Love it. It's highly entertaining. I recommend it. But take the break. Another thing that you can do is set yourself some boundaries. Now, I am notoriously bad at this, but I am trying harder. That's all we can ever do, right? So try not to let your planning for work spill over or encroach on your personal time. And I know this is hard. I know it is. It's something that I struggle with as well. Because sometimes the only time that we have to get work done is when the kids are in bed. And that's okay, but set a limit on it. So I now put my alarm on my phone for like an hour. So when it goes off, I stop. So let's say Eden gets into bed for say 8:30, wishful thinking. Maybe I'm downstairs at 8:30. Then I set my alarm for 9:30. It goes off and I stop. And then I put the telly on and I have an hour to relax before bed if I've not fallen asleep before. Actually, I sometimes think what I need is one of those bands, that you can wear around your wrist and gives you an electric shock if you do something you shouldn't. I also need one to stop me eating cake as well. That would be really helpful. Another thing that you can do is talk to others that understand you. It's like when you're a mum and you actively seek out other mums, don't you, to suffer collectively with. You need to do the same with self-employed people, small business owners, creatives. It's the only way that I've survived because other people just don't get it. They really don't. If you only work for a company, and you only ever have, you cannot understand how stressful it is running your own business. Like, the flexibility you need, the discipline, the commitment, the endurance. I saw a post on LinkedIn the other day. This might get you really cross. It did me, but I thought I'd tell you about it. And it was about a panorama episode, which I didn't see. Like I said, I just saw it on LinkedIn. And it was about whether or not we should still be working from home. Now all the COVID stuff has passed. And there was a former M&S, Marks and Spencer's boss on there. And he claimed that working from home wasn't proper work. Now, he might have meant people who are working for companies that are now working from home. But, self-employed people like me, like you, if you run a small business, working from home, that's us. We're classed as working from home people. So this applies to us in his eyes. And when he was addressing the argument that working from home helps employees balance work and caring responsibilities, do you know what he said? I'm going to quote him here, okay? He said, "People who drive trains have to go to work. People who work in operating theatres have to go to work. People who work in service industries like retail have to go to work. And they have children, they have problems, they have issues. You deal with it." Now, this really got my back up. It's exactly what is wrong with the working culture of this country and many others, I'm sure. Because before remote working, people with these responsibilities, and they are disproportionately women, they couldn't make it work. They're putting their careers on hold or they're leaving the workforce altogether, which is so sad. And it's why I'm such an advocate for self-employment. With all its stresses and its ups and its downs, it really beats having to be in the company of prats like this. You can find comfort and understanding and company by building your own community of people who get your challenges and who are going to help you work them out and support you. It is so important to survival as an entrepreneur and a mother, you know? And it's okay to shift your plans if it's affecting your mental health, because that should always be number one. Now, to sum up this episode, I really want to make sure that you know and remember that as business owners, we might have to live in the future, but we still deserve to embrace the joy of the present because it's the only bloody thing that is guaranteed, let's face it. That cup of coffee that you're holding in your hands right now as you're listening to this, that delicious pastry that you've treated yourself to go with it, that conversation with your friend or your sister or your mum that's making you laugh and feel safe and happy. Those are the moments that I'm soaking in now. I am definitely doing less planning and being more spontaneous, like in life and in business. Some of my best ideas, my best products that I created with Vintage Twee were born on the spot. Like from the initial idea to the photographed finished product listed on my website, under 3 hours, done. Like bestsellers. Planning can make us feel better, but it almost definitely adds a different level of pressure. And I think by both freeing up time to cram more stuff in that you don't actually need to do, and by drip feeding your brain this constant supply of cortisol, it's harmful. It's harmful in the long term to our health, our physical and mental health. So let's make a conscious effort right here, right now, to change that. So what am I doing to start enjoying the present more? To start reducing the level of forward planning that is actually ruining my enjoyment of the present? Well, I'm going to tell you, okay? And it's something that I've been thinking about for probably a good few months now. It's something that's been making me really miserable and stressed. And that is social media. I've decided I'm scaling back. I am redirecting my energies and my efforts to something that makes me feel better. Less pressured, less stressed, and more me. Because honestly, right, I'm a little bit over, all right, I'm a lot over being miserable, trying to convince certain social media channels that what I've got to share is good. I know it's good. And I'm done playing pawn to the algorithms. I'm finished with it. I'm fed up with it. Like, it's taking my enjoyment away from content creating because it should be about you. It should be about what you have got to share with the world. And it shouldn't be determined by this external force, this gatekeeper that tells us what people see and what people don't. So I did something at the weekend that I think is going to change things for me, like mentally. I think it's going to change things for me creatively. And I joined Substack. I don't know if you heard of it. I hadn't heard of it until my friend told me about it, and she said it would be really, really good for me. I am not sponsored in any way to talk about Substack. I literally just want to tell you why I feel that it's going to be good for me, and maybe it would be for you as well. It's basically a platform for creative people to really be themselves without the pressure, because the focus is on what you're writing. The focus is on the writers, the readers, the artists, the lovers of the written word. And for anyone that knows me, they'll know that I like writing. Like, you've seen the length of my posts, okay? I need somewhere to put my words. And it's a platform that seems to be based on interest and genuine connection. The best thing is, it is not dictated by an algorithm. So there's no adverts, no sponsored posts, nothing like that. There's nothing on there that you don't want or you don't choose to see. It's about people owning the platform and not the other way around, the platform owning the people. And this is why I've joined it. So I've joined it as me, Joanne Pierce. So I've set up a publication on my Substack account called the Her Handmade Hustle Substack, which is basically what I'll be sending to my subscribers once a week. And it'll be an article that I've written about. And I think it's going to be on the topic of the week on the podcast. So it'll be like a deeper dive into the topic. It's going to contain some additional helpful, interesting information on that topic. It'll be written in my usual style, some humour, heartfelt messages, all intertwined with the business advice and the creative tips, etc. But I want it to be something that people look forward to receiving every week in their inbox. It's going to be open, honest, helpful, entertaining, creative, but most of all, genuine. If you like my podcast, you'll definitely love my Substack, I promise you. And the best thing is, it's totally free to be a subscriber. You just need to sign up for a free account on Substack, find me, and click subscribe. And then every single week, you will get a beautifully crafted and informative article straight to your inbox. I actually have one subscriber already, so I'm off the mark. But if you want to join me, I would love that. Seriously love that. I'll leave the link to my account in the show notes, but it's also on my Instagram bio, so you can find it on there. But if you are currently following me on Instagram, I definitely recommend joining my Substack because I'm going to be putting more time into that. I'm going to be stepping away from the mainstream social media channels, and it's going to be so much better, I promise you. So there's also going to be a paid tier on the Substack account, which is going to just be £6 per month. For that, you're going to get subscriber-only content. You're going to be getting additional podcast episodes. I know, I'm creating more work for myself here, aren't I? But I thought I could do some additional podcast episodes. And I'm starting with one this week. So I've got an additional bonus episode to go with this podcast, which is all about the neuroscience behind seasonal burnout. So if you want to become a paid subscriber, obviously be eternally grateful. You'll be able to access this content as well, which will be published on a weekly basis. There'll be a bonus episode to go with the normal podcast episodes. You're going to get access to my community. There's going to be question and answer sessions. You can ask me for creative business advice via there. It's going to be so worth it. But go for the free version. You'll still get your article, and I think you're going to love it. So that's it from me this week. I really hope you've enjoyed the episode. I hope it's made you feel a little bit better about this whole concept of forward planning and how actually it doesn't make us feel better. Most of the time it makes us feel worse. So I want you to think really carefully about what you need to do. And for the day, have a think about what it is you actually just really need to do right now in the moment. And don't think too far ahead because it won't help you in the long run. As always, thank you so much for listening. If you can recommend this episode to a friend who might also be feeling burnout, I'd so much appreciate it. Just share it with them. I would love it. But that's it for me for now, and I'll catch you again next week on another episode of the Her Handmade Hustle Unplugged podcast.